Wow.
Every 90 days, you have to delete this registry key on a workstation to continue connecting to your terminal server. So I had to explain to her that's not right. You need to have licensing. But it didn't change the fact that she deleted the key on Windows 7, but it still didn't work. Windows XP, if you delete that MS licensing key and then you try and reconnect to the terminal server, it'll rebuild that MS licensing key and it'll give you a new temporary license. That's Windows XP. Windows
I,
7 is different.
right. And I was gonna say this sounds like a familiar process I remember from the past, and then you just hit it home. That's what you did with SP.
Right, XP. Now, Windows 7, it just wasn't rebuilding. Um, I think what I did was I just created a new registry key and named it MS licensing, restarted, and it worked. It grabbed the new temporary license because if you look under the MS licensing key, there's a couple more keys in there. So apparently, it just wasn't recreating the MS licensing key to be able to create the sub keys.
Gotcha.
Now, alternatively, what she could do is instead of deleting the MS licensing key, she could just delete the sub keys and leave the MS licensing main key. But I didn't want to tell her that. I just told her I told her it was happening because you need to get licensing, which she does.
I
So,
mean, and to be legal, right?
so she didn't understand why she had to pay for licensing, and she didn't want to tell her boss that they had to spend more money because he doesn't like to spend money.
Hmm.
So I thought that was pretty funny. It's just this is one company, an example. The reason they spend so much money trying to save money. And do you find that happens frequently where you are?
Yeah, I mean, let's take hardware. When you approach your management, say, hey, let's if you spend a couple $1,000 or whatever the price amount to buy a new server, a new physical appliance, or new workstations, oh no, that's too much money. Then you're riding your wheels, supporting old equipment to make it work for today's demands.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see it so much. They try and squeeze every last nickel, but they don't realize is that the older the hardware, the older the software, the higher the administration costs are,
Sure,
and the longer the downtime when something happens.
no doubt.
Um, now another thing, goes back to we deal with customers who have their own IT staff on site.
Say say
It's not a problem.
say one more time that you deal with customers.
Customers that have their own IT people on staff,
Okay.
right? We back them up. They have a problem, they call us. And I just have to, these two things happened the same day, which is why it struck me. Um, we had a call from somebody, and she said her RAID 5 array crashed on one of her servers. And and so of course this is the RAID 5 data array. So the system still booted up. It had a RAID 1 system array. RAID 5 data array wasn't coming up. So we could boot into it. We can get into the management software, and we can see two of the four drives marked as failed.
Okay.
Now, RAID arrays, they're touchy. So I looked at the logs. They both went offline at the same time. So, of course, when they go offline at the same time, it was probably a power issue or something happened,
Right.
and they just marked offline. Now, she didn't offer any kind of explanation, but we just said, look, we're just going to mark them back online and see what happens. Marked them back online, and they came up fine. Data was accessible. And then she says, oh, I wonder if that happened when I powered it off and powered it back on. You did that really? That's nice. Thank you for sharing.
Uh,
But yeah, you can't just power it off. I mean, why did you power it off? Oh, I was doing some reason which didn't make any sense at all. I was like, okay, well, don't do that. But then she goes on to say that that's the reason she doesn't like RAID 5 because if you lose one drive, you lose everything. and we shouldn't use RAID 5 in these systems because RAID 5 is not fault tolerant, blah, blah, blah. She's going on and on and on, it, it, it- explaining to me why we should not use RAID 5 on servers because you can lose one drive and you lose everything.
And I bet she was so confident as she was talking to you.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely. I mean, absolutely certain that RAID 5 should not be used. Anyway, I let her go on and on. I didn't even correct her because I didn't want that conversation to go on. But I just thought this is the network engineer doesn't even know what a RAID 5 is and what it does.
I mean, I can understand the more complicated RAID hybrids, but RAID 5?
It's not RAID 50. RAID 50, RAID 10. But anything other than RAID 0 is redundant. RAID 5, RAID 10, RAID 50, they're all redundant.
I'll tell you what, one of my previous gigs, I had to automate installations of applications. So if Matt Rainey had a product and it had 10 different steps, one of my gigs was, okay, automate those 10 steps so it can be deployed to, a couple hundred people or wherever that number was. So there was this application that was created by a vendor, it's very proprietary. And they set up, no, there's no way that you can automate it. None. I said, okay, well, I just want to try, because that's my job. No, it can't be done. So the vendor wasn't being very incooperative. So I got my boss involved and said, okay, I'll give it a shot. 4 days later, the app was fully automated and deployed. And this guy was like, just floored that I was able to automate the application. It wasn't anything really complicated. There's a bunch of silent the switches, and I use AutoIt to complete it. But the fact that he made it clear to all this management team it could not be done, and I was wasting my time, and it was done. Like, come on, like really? So
yeah, it's I had something similar where I was told we had a requirement. This is a while back to run AutoCAD as a restricted user. And I was told by AutoCAD support it's not possible. You have to be
I've heard that
administrator.
I have heard that. In fact, in most environments, they are power users on their PCs.
Yeah. Well, I got to work with standard user. Now, it took a little while. I had a chance to, I had to run utilities to see what was being denied access to for registry keys. And
there you go.
folders. But it's definitely possible. Any application is possible.
Yes, and that's the key right there that I found out when I was automating most of my applications. It requires that the user have rights to portions of the registry the application needs, and they're good to go.
Right.
And, but do you have to
document all those, and so we can duplicate it or make group policy change? Yeah, but it's definitely possible.
Yes, sir.
Now, after I hung up the phone with this girl, another place called, and they have a guy there who does some stuff, but they said, hey, we have a Mac and we need this user to print to this printer, but we're trying to figure out a way to do it without wiping out all their settings
on the Mac.
Right. I understand. She says, yeah, we were told that in order to connect the Mac to the printer on the network, that all the settings on the Mac would have to be wiped out. Now, the only thing I can think of is that they meant like a Windows machine, joining it to the domain, and you get a new profile.
And that's that is reaching far for me because I don't understand what that means.
But they were told by the person who normally does this stuff that you can't do it without. He said, I can do it, but it's going to wipe out everything on your Mac. So they called me because we do most of their work. He does
a
lot of the stuff on site, and we do other things. And I said, well, let's just install the printer as an IP printer. I mean, it's an IP-based printer. So I installed the printer, tested it, worked fine. She goes, wait, that's it? And this took all of 10 minutes. So yeah, that's it. The test page print? Yes. She said yes. I said, okay. and she was like, she wasn't very happy. Not
Right now it's
me.
you, but right.
She was happy with me got it working, but she was unhappy with what she was told that it could not work without wiping out the settings. And I see this as a common thing. I don't know if people, maybe I'm more motivated because I'm charging them. If they're an employee, maybe they're just trying to get out of doing work. I don't know. I don't know what it is. But I see that it's common to where things just don't get done. And when they call us, they're amazed or mad that it's a simple fix or a quick fix.
You know, and many times it's as simple as a Google search if you use Google properly. But the thing that really upsets me when I do search, and I want to say Yahoo Answers is famous for this. That's why I don't even click on their links. You know, everything is because of a virus or reinstall your operating system. It's a virus. Reinstall your operating system. No, that's not what we're here for. You know what I'm saying? Let's find what the problem is. A lot of times you'll see it's a setting or an INI file or registry or something. But how many people go, well, you know, I got to reinstall your operating system to make this work?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because it's you know, think about it. It's just a reinstall. There's no thought process there.
Yep.
I had one, I went, and this one was, I was very amazed. I forget what the exact issue was, but we took over support for the company. And when we do that, we like to get a laundry list. If you want to overall, give me the network issues, give me the server issues. If individual users had problems, have them make a list so we can go through each user with them and resolve their issues. There was one girl, she had only one issue, and I forget what it was, but she said the guy worked on it on and off for a year. And I forget what the issue was. I think I have a document somewhere. For a year. And it took me about a minute to fix it. And she was mad. You think she'd be happy.
Right. Not mad at you, but
dealing with this for a year. I said, well, I don't know what to tell you. I said, that's why we're doing the support now. So you can have confidence that that won't happen again.
And, you know, and it goes back if you're starting to support small business customers, or if you get into a realm where you're just, you know, not the master of all of the skill set yet, you know, there's, you know, okay, let me research that and get back to you. Just don't throw out there crazy off the wall assumptions and say, well, you know, you got a Mac, you got to wipe your settings.
Yep. And I've been doing this for a while. I mean, when I first started off, I can tell you, I wasn't as efficient as I am now, and that's true for anybody starting off. There's going to be a learning curve.
That comes with time.
But if you have a good basis, troubleshooting, stick through, see it through to the end, that's going to help a lot.
Exactly. You know, and I'll give you an example. I've been in the Windows environment since seems forever, and to me now I'm part of a Cisco team, so this is all new to me. But so there's a learning curve that I'm going through now, and you know I have to really think on how I do things. But at the end of the day, if you know, this is one thing I have come to a conclusion. If you know how to troubleshoot properly, regardless of what you're doing, you can get to the answer eventually, as long as you know how to troubleshoot. I don't know if you agree with that, Matt, but I mean, but at the end of the day, there is a learning curve. So,
yeah, and in business, I will say in business though, it is nice to do business support because a lot of times you can reinstall without messing things up because they might have a few applications they use.
Oh, sure.
You can just sometimes reinstall and put those applications back. It's like a home user that they have so much data in this program and this program. A business computer, the goal is if you do have to replace the computer or reload, there'll be no data on. You should be able to walk in and take the computer away.
I'm going to say that one more time.
With a business computer, you do want to be able to just walk in, take the computer away, put a new one there, and they don't lose any data.
Yeah, because, you know, they have an employee. that they're paying them a salary, and when they're not being productive,